Around 1910, an interest in breaking away from Converse County began to gain momentum. Emotions began to run high on the subject, and the Lusk Herald, who was for the division, and the Manville Register, who was adamantly opposed to forming a new county, editorialized heavily on their respective positions. When the Converse County Commissioners were approached about the division, one commissioner remarked that if the new county would contain those two ranchers from north of Lusk, he was all for the division. Reasons for division included improvement of county roads in the local area. It was felt that all road monies were being spent in the western part of the county around Douglas, and a more convenient location of the county seat. Some also felt that a county could be run more economically than Converse County was being managed. The opposition felt it was too expensive, given that a new county would have to continue to pay its share of bonded debt for the Converse County Courthouse, the cost of transcribing 25 years of legal records, the expense of a special election, and cost of sharing in the revenue of the Lost Springs and Harney Creek coal mines. The group known as the Divisionists kept pressing forward and brought it to the legislature in 1911 for approval. Nat Baker, a leader of the anti-divisionists, threatened to shoot Mr. Snyder, who was on his way to Cheyenne to testify for the division. Mr. Snyder's daughter heard of the threat and stood between her father and Nat Baker until Mr. Snyder boarded the train. He said if Baker would have shot him, it was only because he was the quickest man. The legislature gave its approval for the creation of a new county, a move that still had to be confirmed by local voters, so the new county was not fully approved until the general election in November of 1912. The anti-divisionists still weren't ready to give up the battle and circulated a petition to keep Governor Joseph Carey from appointing commissioners to oversee the organizational details, but he did appoint 3 commissioners. Organized opposition continued even after the appointment of the commissioners. Clubs for and against were formed, rallies were held, and the newspapers continued their battles. An election was finally held with 626 votes to form the new county, 203 against. In the same election, Lusk was voted as the county seat with 625 votes. Even after the election, groups continued to argue, this time about the correct pronunciation of Niobrara. It was finally assigned to the school superintendent and the Lusk Reading Club to discuss it. Finances were a struggle in the early years, but new oil and gas discoveries after 1917 caused an upswing in the local economy. Oil and gas were discovered in Lance Creek and other areas, which caused an oil boom in the county. Hotels and rooming houses were full, private homes were rented out spare rooms. Some workers had to wait for others to arise so that they might occupy their beds. The town of Lance Creek had a population of over 2,000 people. Post office patrons stood in line for hours or hired women to stand in line for them. In the 1920s, the county's population grew to over 10,000 residents. Freight shipments ran day and night to supply the oil field. Many other things were also happening in the newly formed county. The first county agent, Carl Laneley, was appointed in August 1917. His salary was $65. It was a part-time position, and his only demonstration of that year was how to vaccinate calves for blackleg, and 1,401 calves were vaccinated, and he had the only vaccine gun. Farm Bureau was the sponsoring organization for the Extension Office and took the lead in getting the Extension Service established. Some of the county agent's first work involved organizing a Farm Bureau, and in 1918 the county agent held meetings in all communities to explain how the Farm Bureau might function and be of benefit to the county. After many meetings, a county Farm Bureau was organized. The Farm Bureau advised and assisted the county agent in planning a constructive plan of work, which prioritized demonstrations in blackleg vaccinations and canning demonstrations for the homemakers. It included educational work to get more acres of corn planted and the building of silos to store feed. It encouraged planting of sweet clover and alfalfa using inoculation before seeding. The Extension Service eventually encouraged the addition of other agricultural endeavors, the raising of turkeys, purebred hogs, production of certified seed potatoes, and certified alfalfa seed as well as other crops, and the use of purebred bulls in the county. 4-H was also to be an important phase of the county programs. In 1919, the county agent got a telephone, which he had to share with the county superintendent of schools, as they also shared an office space. A home economist was hired for $41.66 a year. In 1922, the county commissioners withdrew their funding of the position due to economic difficulties. The local farmers and businessmen funded the position, the only time in Wyoming history that extension had been funded privately. 1923 saw Farm Bureau contributing $1,500 to the county commissioners to retain both the extension agent, the home economist, and their programs. In 1924, the county commissioners again provided funds. Extension and Farm Bureau continued to thrive and to contribute substantially to the success of agriculture in our area. These are just a few peeks into our past. No matter your area of interest in history, murder, mayhem, mining, mystery, insanity, outlaws, making a moonshine, political strife, Indian cultures, ladies of the evening, bank robberies, you name it, we've had it here. You just have to go looking. The stories are many and endlessly fascinating. As with most good history, you'll probably end up with more questions than answers, but that's just the beginning of your next adventure.